I'm very, very excited. Our OCC journey leads us now to Hawaii. I can say aloha to Dr. Jennifer Dustow.
Aloha.
Aloha, yes. She's a cognitive behavioral learning specialist in the special field of children and adults too in autism. Or
Autism.
Yeah. So yeah, this is something we were not expecting, but let's say we were brought together because of the word aloha. And that's what I really like. So Jennifer, thank you so much for being here, for taking your time. Before we dive into your world of your specialism, so tell us something interesting about yourself most people don't know.
Oh, I think there's too much that's interesting about me. Isn't that nice? I love hiking. I absolutely love nature. And whenever I start to get overwhelmed by all the pressures and expectations in my to-do list, I go for a walk in nature. And it just resets me. And so it's sort of my little, I guess, my secret to keeping that centered and balancedness, because nature naturally has it. And so that's kind of the one thing about myself that, yeah, I don't tell many people, but now everybody knows, of course. I like to go hiking. I like to go walking.
And it's beautiful. And being in Hawaii, in one of those islands, I mean, it must be beautiful.
Well, Hawaii, what can you say, right? It's
exactly.
You can go so far and you can go hiking in the hills, or you can go down to the beach. It offers so much, but anyone that's been to Hawaii knows it's the aloha state.
Exactly. I was there only 25 years ago, so yes, it's incredible. So you are a lucky duck for sure.
Thank you.
So you are very diverse in your work. I mean, your main work is to help adults and children in autism.
Mm-hmm.
Also, you started coaching. So let's start. Can you tell us something about your journey, about your work with children who have autism?
Well, you know, as you mentioned, I'm a cognitive behaviorist. And when I was in university, I was looking at different options of where I wanted to go with, you know, my place in the world. And the cognitive behaviorals just resonated with me. And so I started on that journey, and it fit my personality. Cognitive behaviors, it breaks down to cognitive, which is your thinking, creates your reality. Mm-hmm. So until you address the thinking, your reality won't change, or it will change for a short period of time, and then you gravitate back to the old behavior because it's familiar and it hasn't been confronted or addressed or replaced. And so I love working with children because they're so direct and honest. They don't hold anything back. And you're never guessing what they're thinking because it's rolling past their little lips. And someone called me up and they said, we have this little girl, she has autism. And I said, I don't know what autism is. They said, we don't care, just come. And so I'm kind of known as the cleaner upper. And what that means is I take on very hard cases that most people are unable to, and kind of approach it kind of differently. So went to the situation, tiny little girl. Like I think maybe she weighed a maximum of maybe 30 pounds. Wow. And she was in the corner of the preschool and she was attacking people. And, you know, the school can't have that. The preschool can't, you know, they want to be able to provide services and they're not able to. So they said, can you come and work with this little girl? And she broke my heart. It was so hard not to break down and cry right there. I said, yep, I can do this. And so kind of did a very unorthodox approach. The girl needed to feel safety. Her parents, which are wonderful, wonderful parents, they did not know what to do either. So they would bring the little girl to school. She would go into the corner, and she never left the corner until her parents picked her up. So that meant that she was peeing her pants in the corner, and there was no way, because this corner was safety to her. And I knew that I couldn't remove her from that safety, but rather she had to decide when she was going to be able to step out of her safety area. So what I did was I got a chair, set it close enough to her, but not too close that, because I didn't want to be attacked. I didn't want to be bit or scratched, because as much as she was 30 pounds, she was wild. It was just wild energy. Excuse me. And so I got a Vogue magazine, and I wore the same outfit every day. And I had a Vogue magazine, and all I did was just turn the page slowly. The little girl was in the preschool for, I think it was a total of 3.5, 4 hours. You have no idea how quickly your bottom goes to sleep when you're sitting in a chair. So I squirmed back and forth, and I just kept turning the page, not asking anything from her, but just turning the page so she could see that I was going to be consistent. And then her parents would come and pick her up, and then I would leave for the day. And of course, the teachers were a little concerned about this, because I was being paid to do something, and I wasn't really doing anything. I was sitting in a chair reading a Vogue magazine. And so then there was discussion in regards to this, about whether this was the best approach that I was having. So about a little ways into it, and nothing had changed with this little child. She wasn't interacting with me. She was still staying in the corner, pretty much facing the corner side, because the wall's cool, and in Hawaii it's quite warm, right? So it's cool, and so it was calming for her. And just when I was starting to think, and it's interesting because we start to make it about ourselves when we start thinking we're failing. So I'm turning the magazine page, and by this time I'm also pretty sick of the magazine. And I'm sitting there turning the pages, and I'm thinking, wow, I really blew it this time. I was totally off the mark. And I was so entangled in that thinking that I didn't see her little hand come in and start to turn the page. And all of a sudden, when I did realize it, tiny, these are tiny little hands, right? So then I turned to her and I said, we have a lot of work. And she went, and I said, we can't do this anymore, what you're doing right now. Will you work with me? And that's where we began. And that was, this is where I show. And when the dinosaurs roamed the earth and we discovered fire, it was probably about the same time. Needless to say, that little girl went on to go to university, and she's in university right now, and she's pursuing medicine, I believe.
Wow.
And so every time I come up against a case, and I feel like I'm getting it wrong, I think she showed me that approaching things differently and with kindness, there will be movement. So that got me into the field of autism. So then from there, I'm thinking, okay. And she actually taught me a lot about autism. She taught me what it felt like, what her world was like. And I think out of all the trainings I've received, she was the best. One of the ones that's, she had to do testing, and children with autism are very, very bright. They just don't translate. They don't translate into our systems of what we deem as intelligence, but they're very, very intelligent little beings. And we were going through the test, what to expect, the sounds, the noises, what the pressure was going to be like. And we were doing this over several days. And it was one of those days I was losing my patience. And I said to her, you know, you're killing me. You're absolutely killing me. She started to cry. All these huge tears coming down. And she's like, I don't want to kill you, Miss Jen. So that was when I'm like, oh, we're going to learn about humor. So we broke it down apart. We took what humor is, we broke it into components so that she could digest it and see exactly what humor was. And then we continued on. And then a few days later, one of the requirements is at recess, is that she had to go up and either be around other kids, say hi to another kid, just interact. And so this date, some of the children had invited her to play basketball. And it's not really basketball, it's like dodgeball because they can't quite get it up to the net. And so I said, you know what you need to do? It's recess time, off you go. So she walks off and she goes like this, you're killing me, Miss Jen, you're killing me. And then she said, you know, that's humor, right? So, I mean, there was all these beautiful moments that occurred with this child. And then the results from that started getting other people interested. And then I started getting lots of calls, and I would have referrals on other cases where people were having a lot of difficulty, and they would say, we just need your eyes on this. And there was another situation, little boy in private school, and he has a thing called Asperger's, and Asperger's is highly functioning autism. And so they called me up and they said, okay, so he's not going to be allowed to stay in the classroom anymore because he has an invisible friend, and the invisible friend is causing issues. So I said, I'll try it, I'll go. So I went, and my approach is always kindness first. Kindness, then directness. And before he would go in the classroom, he had to sign his name beside, or like, you know, they print it, right? And so I said to him, I said, I don't see your friend's name on the list. He looks all down it. No, my friend comes with me. Oh, no. See how Miss Jen's name's down here? Because I'm coming into your classroom today, so the name has to be here. So your little friend can't come into the room. So you're going to have to say goodbye. You can meet up with your little friend at home, but you can't bring your friend into the classroom because their name's not on the list. So I gave the child a few minutes, and they were kind of talking to air and crying. And then they came in, and the teacher never had any more problems with an invisible friend. See, for me, I don't know whether there's an invisible friend or not, but I'll have the respect because to this child, there's an invisible friend. And so for me to say that's not true is pretty arrogant on my part, because I don't know. I don't know a lot of things. It's funny, they have that saying, the more you know, the less you know. It is so true. It all depends. So that's what started me on my journey with autism, and it's just kind of grown from there. And then one of the things I found was really necessary was parent training. So I'd call it parent coaching. And basically, there's so much damage that happens in a family unit with a child with autism. They disconnect from their support because it's too much. It's too much for them. It's too much for the support. So one of the first things I like to do is get them connected with their support again, whether it's family, whether it's their church, whatever their belief systems are, to get that support, that energy flowing so it's there. And to just hold that space for them to talk. Just talk about their feelings, talk about what's going on, talk about their failing, and then to be okay. We're so taught all the time that the only thing we can talk about is our successes. Because if we don't talk about our successes, other people won't see our worthiness. And then if we don't see our worthiness, then we don't have value. And everybody has value in the conversation, everybody. The amounts are all divvied up differently, but the value is still there for everyone. And my approach with the coaching is just to create that safe space. Anyways, I've kind of noticed I've gone on a tangent, so I'm going to turn it back to you. I'm so sorry.
Please go ahead.
One simple question led to all of that.
But this is the beauty, you know. I mean, we are here. It's like I would sit next to you. I mean, I would love to. I'm glad we can do it like this. And no, it's so beautiful listening to you. And I'm sure you have hundreds of stories, success stories, you know. But where
And some failure stories. I have some very funny failure stories.
Then tell us one failure story if it's funny. Only if it's funny.
Only if it's funny. Let's see. Let's see, like off the top of my head, some of the failure stories. I was in a classroom, little boy, very smart little boy. And I was trying to get him, the school needed him to have the skill set to sit in his desk to not run around the classroom. And he couldn't get past that. So he'd be on his tippy toes and he'd be running all over the place, and then he'd just walk fast, right? And so we would try all sorts of different things in regards to that. Didn't work. And then he kept saying to me, one day. And I didn't understand what he was saying about one day. The school had a fire. And you know how they talk about walking in an orderly manner? This was a smaller classroom. They needed to leave immediately. Because if they had done the whole walking in line and everything else because of how it was moving, it wouldn't have ended well. And we were standing out in the field. He pats my hand and he says, "See, Miss Jen?" He was right.
Yeah.
And see, and with children with autism, if you teach them something and they absorb it into their world, it becomes a fact to them and they will stick to that. And I'm so glad he didn't, because if he had done that whole, I mean, we did get him down to just kind of scuffling really quickly on his tippy toes. But if he had done that, walked orderly, it, you know, because of the way the smoke was coming in so quickly and stuff like that. So it's kind of funny, but it kind of was one of those, excuse me. He still needed to keep some of that, his behavior, where I was looking at extinguishing it completely. And it's funny, the word extinguish, especially with billowing, was more important. And the biggest lesson that I got from that was like, ooh, maybe I need to scale back and be more open to the skills that need to be in place. Maybe there's a reason for it and we don't know what that is yet.
Yeah.
So the funny part is the way he was standing out in the field with a really smug little face, tapping my hand. You be the expert. So,
but this is nice, you know, like, I mean, it sounds like that you have an incredible connection to the children, and it's, you know, you have this love what you spread, and yes, you have the knowledge over the years, you know, so you gained it, but you accept them how they are, you know.
Oh, I love them. I love how smart they are.
Yeah.
I love their quirkiness, because their quirkiness makes them pieces of art that are acquired tastes, but they're nonetheless, they're these beautiful pieces of art that make you think. When you're around a child with autism, they strip away all the things that we deem as important. We have, you know, we have social cues, we have social etiquette, we have all these layers to who we are. And we have them for a reason. It's not like we can just strip them away. It would be anarchy, right? But they strip us down to who we really are. And that can be scary sometimes, especially if we haven't accepted who we are. because there's facets of ourselves that we're like, oh, no, 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 I'm not like that. I remember once when I would be like, oh, I could never kill someone. Well, have a child. When they put that child in your arms in the hospital and you're holding this child and you're looking down at them, oh yeah, I could totally kill someone if anyone touched my bundle. But before that, I'd be like, oh no, I don't have that. I'd never have that feeling. And the truth of the matter is we have all of them. And children with autism, they bring us there very quickly. And sometimes when we're not prepared for it, we're not prepared to see our flaws and then to love our flaws.
Yeah, this is beautiful said, beautiful, Jennifer. Yeah. So, I mean, at what stage did you realize there's also help? I mean, the children need help, and I mean, they could probably not get someone better than you, or it's a privilege for them.
Oh no, there's lots of great people in the field.
No, but still, you are a tool for them. You know, like you are there at the right place, and you can help those children who are surrounded. Or but you realized also there's the need for the parents to support them. So that's why I mean that's how you also started with coaching the parents.
Mm-hmm.
At what time or when did you realize, or did you want to help them too, you know, so that it's maybe a better balance in their family life? Or
probably the first little girl that I worked with.
oh.
Because what happened is the little girl bonded with me. And that bond with me was, in my mind, going to interfere with her bond with her parents. Because I don't believe any service provider, any professional should between a healthy bond between parents and a child. I mean, healthy. I mean, there's some unhealthy situations out there. But in a healthy situation of a parent that loves their children and loves their child, but doesn't have the tools, we shouldn't be a bigger bond to them because we're leaving their lives. And so what I would find, and I found in the first one, is their little girl's mom, beautiful mom, sweet as anything. And one day she said to me, she said, I wish I could connect to her like you do. And that's when it was like, aha. So I said, I'll teach you. I'll teach you how to do it. Everything's teachable. And then the rest is working on it to develop that skill more. And so one of the first things we needed to do was to get past her fear of damaging the little girl. So there was a paralyzation that was happening with her where she wasn't connecting with the little girl. And it wasn't because she didn't love her. Oh, she loved her dearly, still does. I mean, when I say past tense, I mean, but she still does love. She was a young lady now. And she just needed to take that breath and to know that parenting is messy. Parenting is very, very messy, even with a typically developing child. It is just meant to be messy. And out of that mess comes something so beautiful. So with the coaching component, I started with the mom, and then I expanded to the father, because men and women process things differently, and they process shame and failure differently. And nobody wants to have their weaknesses exposed, and especially in a public situation. And being a service provider coming into it, it is public, right? Unless you keep it in with your own family unit. And so we just started in that vein. And so I had to call it parent training because that's the format and the framing, but it was actually more coaching, and coaching in the way of holding that space where they could tell me anything and we could move forward from that. And not reacting to what they were saying. Because each one of us has our own way in which we see life is. And we judge the rest of the world to that framing. So then when someone comes along and tells us something that we already believe, we embrace it. It's wonderful. But if someone comes along and they say something that isn't part of that, we react to it and we judge it and we're not sure of it. So you have this. So if someone's coming along and they're sharing stuff with you of feelings that they may have not verbalized before ever, and the person you talk to goes like this or reacts, that's ended. That's totally ended. You can't trust that person ever again because they've said one thing, but the outcome's more. At the same time as the other person holding that spot, it's hard. It's hard hearing things that you want to say, wow, okay. And so what I have to keep my mind in a place of is kindness, not answers, but kindness. Because when we tend to have answers, answers provide judgment, judgment outcome. Where if we are in a kind place, we're open, and that's different than us, but it doesn't have to replace our values, and we don't have to replace their values. So I found that the coaching approach for me that way worked for my personality. You know, I would have parents that would contact me and say, oh, I'd like to work with you. And I could tell by the way my approach is, I would only hurt them more. So I would say to them, you know what, here's some other great people to see. And then later on down the road, connect with me again because of the rawness that they're at. Mm. And, you know, I can't change who I am. I just got to know who I am and work with that. So, yeah, I think I answered the question, or did I get sidetracked again?
No.
I will do that a lot, just so you know.
Yeah, but you have such an amazing spirit, you know, and you have a wonderful way to explain everything and your stories and the situations. I mean, I'm gluing to your lips, you know. It's really, it's so I mean, I just love it. It's beautiful. It's really beautiful. And it's so nice also that you realized how important it is to think of for the parents, because they face a family life no one can follow, or they cannot know how it is. I'm sure they get judged, you know, or they get great comments, you know, oh no, and then they feel maybe alone too. And yes, they need a safe space where they can open up, where they can just talk and let's go, you know. Beautiful, yeah.
And now, as I'm finding that I'm getting on in my years, I don't have that same kind of spunk I used to have. And so I'm having to go to developing things that parents can go to, that I try to keep very inexpensive, that they can use because I can't get to all my requests. And for parents, the clock is ticking for them. And they need to have someone. They need that in place. And that's why I don't allow anything more than a 3-month waiting list for me. I just don't. Because even at 3 months, it's too far. Mm-hmm. Because parents need support. And because, you know, I'll weave back to the actual question now that I remember it, is parents have to be the closest person to the child. They cannot be the service provider because they're leaving, even if they're staying, but the parents and the child that trust has to be back in place. What I find with parents, when they put out this energy, I don't know what I'm doing, you can't trust me, the child doesn't trust them because this is their parent knows best. And the truth of the matter is the parent can do it. They just need to tweak a little bit. And they got it. They totally got it. It's, I remember one parent said to me, you've never made any mistakes with your child, excuse me. And I said, oh yes, first day. She said, what do you mean? I said, I got out of the hospital with my daughter, and a friend of mine owned a little boutique, and they were importing stuff from England and things like that. And so I wanted to go down and get her a cute little outfit, right? So it was our first mommy and daughter shopping spree. So we go down to the shop. I buy her the cutest little outfit. I get home. She's not there to try it on. I left her at the store. Yes, first day as parent. So as I say to parents, oh, no, we've all been in a messy situation. It just kind of is. So I went down to the shop, the little boutique. I was crying. I figured that social welfare should come in and they should take her away because I'd be the worst parent ever. And the two women that owned the shop, they were playing with her. And, you know, at that stage, it's like the eyes are just kind of open and they kind of close. I don't know whether they're focusing or whatever. And so I was crying and crying, and they're like, they just sat with me, and they didn't make fun of me, but they made fun of the situation, which was really good. But it's still, you know what I mean? That whole thing of failing as a parent, day one at home. So then my husband comes home. And I'm crying, and I'm like, you need to marry someone else. You need to have someone else as a parent. I can't do this. So that was all day one after coming out of the hospital. So
it's a story. No, but luckily in the store, they were so lovely. They took it easy, you know, and they had a good time with her, and she wasn't safe in. So that's the most important.
It's funny, my daughter's in her 30s now, and she always brings that up all the time. Well, this is my mom. She left me my first day in a shop. That's a good introduction. We could always just go with Jennifer. That one always works too.
Second name is Jennifer.
Second name's Jennifer.
Jennifer, I mean, but if I'm right, you wrote several books. They are translated, or your research is translated in 30 languages, which is, I mean, you must have this masterpiece.
Well, when I did my dissertation, I didn't expect it to go so huge. So what I did is they tried to get this research done before at a couple other universities on the mainland. But I had a very good, strong dissertation committee. And one of the committee members I had was Dr. Egan, and he interviewed Nelson Mandela when he was in prison. He proved that Shakespeare wrote another play. So he was a real go-getter. And, you know, Dr. Dolberg, who was involved with the military, and they were, I want to say, I don't know if I can say this, but they were real hard asses. And so they were like, if you want to do your doctorate, you need to really push it. This is just not a walk in the park. So I said, I really want to look at whether we can do midline exercises, which are any exercises you do by crossing the middle of your body, to see if we can decrease, you know, these children with autism's off-task behavior, because at that time they were looking at medication to bring down their hyperness. And so I'd been doing a lot of research with kinesiology. There's a lot of different organizations that are out there that were kind of doing this, but they couldn't apply it to children with special needs. So I thought, that's where I want to go. That's where I want to go with this. So I had a very strong committee. They were like, yeah, okay. And we conducted the research with, I think, 88 preschoolers, which still makes it one of the biggest studies in the world. And we did it for 6 weeks. And how we did it is we would flip a coin, and nobody would know whether we'd be doing the intervention or not until that day. And then once it was done, then it was sent out to all the schools, and they would do these exercises just before circle time, where we needed to pick a time that was the same. So we had to remove a lot of variables. So we can say, oh, it's because of this or it's because of that. And they would do the exercises for 5 minutes. None of the teachers had to have any training. They only had to learn how to do the exercises, like crossing the midline. And then what we would do is we would take tallies of behaviors afterwards for the next, I think it was a half hour. And it was dramatic. Some of the schools are still using those exercises for the whole school. because of how it makes it focused.
Mhm.
I didn't invent these exercises. They have been around for, I would have to say, a very long time. Stroke victims, because they can't move it across. So then the occupational therapist will bring their hand across. So what happens in the brain, and especially with children with autism, they don't have the communication across the different hemispheres. So they may be thinking cat, out of their mouth comes dog. And so you have this frustration that goes with this. And so by doing the midline exercises, you're forcing the brain to communicate with the other side. And it has a calming effect. So what the best way I can describe it, we all have a go-to behavior when we get stressed. So let's say, let's use mine, for example. My go-to behavior when I get stressed is a form of control and organization. So that part of my brain kicks in. And then the other part of my brain says, well, maybe we don't need to control this, organize it. But this side is so strong and it says, oh, be quiet. I don't want to hear this from you. So when you start doing midline exercises, what it does to the stronger part of your brain or your personality that takes over, it's just, what was that? And then all of a sudden this voice starts becoming part of the conversation. And it's about the basic way that I try to explain it to children, but you grasp what's going on with the brain. So this communication starts occurring. And so, so applying midline exercises really work with children with autism. Well, they actually work really well with all types of children. And so we applied it there. It was hugely successful. Then it was picked up by a German publishing company. And then from there, it just exploded. It went into 27 languages or 30 languages now. And then what I was finding, because it's written as a research publication, it's extremely boring. Not to me, but for the rest of you that want to go something to put you to sleep, it's the best little capsule to take to go to sleep. So what I did was I broke it down so it became very mainstream. And so I published it on Amazon. Sorry, I don't remember the name of it, but if you Google Dr. Jennifer Dustow, it's there. And what I did is I broke it down very simple and showed the data. So even if you hate math, you can do this. I teach you how to read a graph and I teach, and it's so, you're like, oh, that's it? That's all you have to do? Because one of the things with higher education is we take simple things, we make it complicated, so only us can do it. But the truth of the matter is we can break it down and anyone can grab it and absorb it and digest it. So then from there, I created 5 midline exercises and I called it happy. And the reason why I chose to do happy is once the child learns these, so let's say, for example, we're at a supermarket and there's some sensory thing that's happening that's causing the child to get anxious. And you can feel the anxiety coming out. The parent can say, let's do our happy exercises. And the exercises are so easy to modify that it's not going to look creepy weird in the public. And so one of them is to hug themselves. So you're crossing your arms, you're creating compression. And I also have them also say, you're doing a good job. You're doing a good job. And those can redirect how you feel and start to give you a sense of control. Mm-hmm. That's functional for the situation. Then I had another parent said to me, oh, I wish I had an app. I wish we could put this on our phone and we could do this. So then from there, I know I'm not good at technology at all. And so with a team, it took us about 1.5 years to develop because I wanted it so simple, because a lot of times things are so complicated. Complicated is actually easier to create. Isn't that crazy? But simple.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely.
Is very, very difficult because there's so much behind it. So the app is divided into 2 aspects. One are the midline exercises and happy. And I have characters that help, cartoon characters. And then the other aspect of the app is social stories. So social stories that actually parents use as well as the child can listen to. And we have 3 characters, Sam the dog, Ashley the cat and Todd the tortoise. And they get up to all sorts of things. And what I do is we create the story, then it goes to kind of a panel. We make sure that, it's going to hit all the areas that we need it to. And then we put it to the artwork and then publish it. And we try to do one a month. We keep adding to it. And it was a great cost to create all this stuff, but I didn't want to put that cost onto parents. So it's, in America, it's 99 cents, but I know the prices are changed. And I think we have that in 15 languages now.
Wow.
And some of the feedback that we're getting from it is the children are going up to the app area where the different languages are to learn different languages. So they do it in their own language first, and then they go to the different languages. And I didn't anticipate, you give it to a child and they will do something different with it that you never think about.
They're incredible, the children. Wow. No, I'm and it's so nice that you also say, okay, I give it, this is again your kindness. Yeah. You're just an amazing soul of a person.
You are so good. I'm going to take you everywhere with me.
Yes, yes. No, really, you are. And that's what I said before we started. That was between us, but you are an incredible person. How you speak, you shine, and you have this passion and this love for the children, and in all the years what you have gained, so it's meant to be that you are there for the children and for the parents, and even now today for us. I cannot say thank you enough. Yeah.
I love people. I love people, and I love people's stories. I love to sit and listen because they don't know the treasures that they have in their room. Because the room has gotten dark and they don't realize the treasures are there, and to sit with them and their light starts to turn on once they start their conversation, once they start their journey, and then they start to look around and they see the jewels that are theirs, and to be invited into that conversation, it's unbelievable. It blows me away. And so I think it's kind of sound a little bit of a Snoopy pants. That's why it works for me. And I love to discover things, and I love other people to discover as they discover stuff and to be part. It's like when you're around a child and they discover something for the first time. That's so powerful because you get to take a look at something that you've taken for granted. And you get to see the beauty in it. And when we get to see the beauty in all of our moments, we make different choices. And when we make different choices, it changes our reality. Our reality starts to influence others. So it's like this whole thing of who is my neighbor? And, my neighbor's next door. But who's my bigger neighbor? My other islands. Who's my bigger neighbor? But it starts here first. And that feeds all the way back to being a cognitive behaviorist and about why that works for me. Because when you change your thinking, you change your reality. It's like your thinking is your steering wheel. And when you feel happy and whatever that happiness is for you, everyone that you touch with a drop of light. And it's like you constantly get filled up again because you're seeing the beauty. So you're not working from a place of emptiness, because you turn and you look at that and you're like, oh, that is so beautiful. You fill up. And when you fill up, and then when you turn to someone and you smile at them, you're passing it. And if we all come from a place of constantly knowing how to see beauty, we're constantly filling our cups up, and then we're sharing that overflow in other people. And it has to do with connection. It has to do with safety. It has to do with kindness. So you're a very, very kind person, and you're kind with everyone that you deal with in your interactions. And kindness isn't easy. Like people can rip another one on you and be really unkind and put the stress that's happening on them and wanting you to participate in that stress. And sometimes it's hard because they can say things and poke in the right places. And for us to have to choose to breathe deep and to remember kindness and beauty. And it's a discipline and it's hard. And I don't always have it every day. So it's, yeah, so that's why I get jazzed about this stuff. Plus I'm in Hawaii. What can you say, right?
Probably aloha.
It's not that Hawaii isn't without its discussions in evolution and things like that. But the word aloha is many things. It's hello, goodbye, I love you. And seeing the beauty in each one of those.
This is
So
a beautiful message for the end.
Yeah, you thank the Hawaiians for that. They really, Hawaiian people really got it. They yeah.
Oh, it's so amazing. I mean, I could continue listening to you, and how still I'm so privileged to have this 45 minutes, 1 hour with you. Thank you so much. And you said that you would give us 2 articles for the playbook so that we have a little touch from you, what you write. And I'm sure you're an amazing writer. Will be, yeah, I'm looking forward to read this in the playbook. And yeah, shine as you are, shine, bloom, grow, and spread the word. Thank you so much, Jennifer.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for finding me.
Yeah, well, it was meant to be, I think. Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, it was meant to be. Yeah. Okay, if someone wants to get in contact with Jennifer, or wants to find her website or whatever, so it's all in the playbook. So we will distribute it, and maybe there's someone who wants to know more or wants to read your book or whatever it is. Yeah. Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you.
I think it's worthy to read, and especially for the apps too. I think that's just amazing. It's really, really amazing, and it sounds wonderful for the children. I'm really happy.
And what's so nice about it is we've kept it inexpensive, and we're constantly adding to it, and there's no additional charges. There's no, you don't pay for any updates. You don't pay for any upgrades. It's just that one-time fee. And right now we're in the midst of working on an app for speech, and it's taking a little more than we anticipated for children that are nonverbal. And so it's requiring, a lot of negotiation of experts and things like that to make it happen. And so we're not sure when that'll be done. That may be another year to, yeah.
So we know it now, and then we can look out for it. And great, wonderful.
The other part will be too, it's to keep it inexpensive.
Yeah. And go hiking in your I'm sorry, but now.
Well, today we have a lot of rain, so the islands have needed the rain, so it's beautiful. So hiking will be a little slippery today.
Yeah, be careful. Yeah. Okay, we keep in touch. Thank you so much. Enjoy your day. For me, it's now the night. For you, it's still the whole day ahead. Enjoy it, and yeah, thank you again. Okay.
Aloha.
Aloha. Bye.